Hi guys, this is Brian Lutz, tennis pro at backhandcity.com and the host of the tennis podcast that I do daily called Find Your Aha Moment. If you want to listen to the podcast, you can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. And of course, you can listen on backhandcity.com. So one of the first podcasts I did was about a phenomenon called the Pareto effect. And the title of the podcast was 5 Clues That Your Tennis Pro May Suck. And if you're not familiar with the Pareto effect, it started in Italy, and it was an economic study on the phenomenon of 20% of an industry created 80% of the output. So I did some digging around, and I found the phenomenon to be very true in the tennis lesson industry as well. And I've even concluded this in the real estate industry, which is very competitive here in Miami. And I've talked to numerous real estate agents, and they said it's even more profound in real estate. There is an abundance of agents here in Miami, and he said the Pareto effect is even stronger in his industry. It is 10% of the agents do about 90% of the output. So with that in mind, I'm about to give you 5 clues that your tennis pro may suck. And the first one is, look at their shoes. They should have new tennis shoes. Now, I know that may sound a little bit trivial at this point, but the reality is tennis pros, if they're investing in themselves and they're busy and they're hard workers, they should have more than one set of tennis shoes. And so they should all look very new. For instance, in my closet, I have hard court shoes, clay court shoes, I even have grass court shoes. And we have a lot of opportunities for free, wholesale, and discounted shoes as part of our program of just being a professional. So there's really no reason to wear a pair of shoes more than one day in a row, especially in a hot, humid climate like here in Miami, where you're gonna sweat a lot and your shoes need to dry out for them to perform and last longer. So I always rotate my tennis shoes so they have a chance to dry out and they perform better and they're more comfortable. So look down at the shoes. It's quite telling how good your tennis pro might be. Number 2, institutional mantras. Now, what do I mean by institutional mantras? Here's an example. Follow through. Bend your knees. Watch the ball. They're these vague, generic terms that don't really resonate with you as a student, like watch the ball. In my over 30 years of teaching, I've never really had anybody look the other way when I hit a ball to them. Now, I get what they're trying to say. There is value and importance in watching the ball, but it's very generic. And I think oftentimes people or teaching pros that don't know what they're saying get nervous and just say, watch the ball whenever you miss. Another one of my favorites is you met the ball too early or you met it too late. Again, interesting with the timing and the technique and the verbiage, but what does it really mean and how does it help me get better? All right. Number 3, you play better with your pro than you do with your friends or when you go play out in league or tournaments. And one of the reasons I think this phenomenon happens, and I remember it happened to me early in the 80s when I started teaching tennis, I had all these students come up to me and go, I perform so poorly when I'm not playing with you, but when I play with you, I play great. And you gotta remember, one of the jobs, the chief jobs of a tennis pro is to make you as a student feel really great when you're done with a lesson. And I think what we do unconsciously, and you gotta catch yourself as an instructor when you do this, is you end up hitting and feeding the ball right to where the student loves it with the perfect speed, a little bit of underspin, and right in their zone so they can really get a groove and feel good about their game. So that's one reason I think that happens. And I think a lot of pros don't really have a system or a model to teach from. They're just kind of winging it, and that unconsciousness kind of happens. Tip number 4, you got a discount. Maybe you found it on Groupon, or you bought a 10-week or 20-week series and then the pro disappeared. I would test out the pro early on, pay the regular rate, see how it goes, get a feel for things before you buy something on the internet without really vetting it. Check to see if they have reviews, check the blog, see if they have a podcast, for instance, check their YouTube page. And more importantly, just go and take some lessons before you start making any kind of long-term commitment. And number 5, this is more obvious, but I put it in there anyways because I don't think the consumer is that familiar with the teaching trade associations. You can also just make sure that the pro is USPTA or PTR certified. Of course, you can do some Googling to find this out, or just go to the websites that do teacher certification and you can find to see if they ever got certified. So those are my 5 clues that your tennis pro may suck. Use them as you wish. They're very practical. And I think in the long run, when you just follow these basic ideas, you're going to have a much more exciting and productive experience on the court. And of course, if you want to listen to my podcast, I release it every day on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Just simply type in "Find Your Aha Moment" and you will see me there. Just subscribe and feel free to rate, review, and subscribe to my podcast so it can continue to grow. And of course, log on to backhandcity.com if you're interested in tennis lessons with me. I do private and group tennis lessons. I specialize in adults. Well, thanks for listening. I'll see you on the podcast.